ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
We are ready to go. It's Tuesday, April 29th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour, it's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. Ready to go at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've had a whirlwind of the last few hours, 24 hours just about. Yesterday, we get the report from Pete Thamel from ESPN that Marshall University and current athletic director Christian Spears agreed not to renew the contract, which expires March of 2026. And then we've got the official statement, which came out earlier today. It's a mutual agreement not to extend, and Spears is going to stay on during the national search. So he's going to run the athletic department. In effect, just about lame duck status now until the new athletic director is hired. Of course, he still will serve as the athletic director, so he'll have some hand in shaping some of what happens with the department. There are projects that are moving forward, so he, in a sense, is going to be there until you can transition into a new athletic director. So my first thoughts were this rumor had been going on for several months. Nothing you could really point your finger to substantiate it. Nothing that I would be willing to talk about. But I've heard the rumors, and I've heard some of the reasons why. Some of that probably not going to make air. Other things we can talk about, though. I think for a lot of people, it might go back to when Marshall and Charles Huff were not able to come to an agreement. So you lose your football coach. Then you lose your football team. You lose your opportunity to go play in a bowl game. And that cost the Herd a pretty penny. I think the was $100,000, I believe the penalty was, on that from the Sun Belt. So that cost Marshall some money. And, of course, you had to go find a new football coach. You had to go put together a new football team. And a lot of Herd fans were soured on the whole process leading up to Coach Huff's departure. So that might be a touchstone for you. Where did it start to fall apart? Because I've heard from many of you today that you're not surprised and you're also not sorry to see him go. Now, there are others who are sorry to see him go. So it's been pretty much 50-50 right now. You have friends, but you always collect enemies as well. Your enemies never seem to leave. Your friends come and go. Enemies, you collect enemies, they stay with you forever just about. And so there's this feeling that maybe the deck was stacked against Christian Spears. He had lost friends, collected enemies, or there's just a feeling that maybe relationships weren't strong enough, or he needed to do a better job building relationships. That's some of the narratives that I've heard today. I talked earlier in the morning with Dave Wilson, and I was on Metro News Talk Line. Good to catch up with Dave, and we talked about some of this. So where are we at right now? Are you surprised to hear that Marshall and Christian Spears are not going to continue on and that this partnership is going to end either at the naming of a new athletic director or when the contract expires, because we don't know exactly when the search will conclude. Now, the release came out earlier, and it's pretty standard for a release. It's boilerplate material. It's stuff you put in a release to say something but not really say something. If you didn't read it earlier, you can find it. It's posted now on my X account at Paul Swann, and it pretty much says that Marshall and Christian Spears announced their mutual agreement that Spears' contract will not be renewed. It outlines some of what Spears was able to do at Marshall University, and then it concludes that the university will immediately begin a national search for its next athletic director, while Spears will continue to serve in his role during the transition. So basic stuff here. And if you look at what Christian Spears was able to do at Marshall University, there are a lot of impressive things you can talk about. There are a lot of feel-good things that came out of his short time as the athletic director. And for example, Marshall opened up a brand new ballpark, Jack Cook baseball field. the Jack. Marshall also was able to, and again, you got to credit Charles Huff for this as well. Marshall was able to win its first Sun Belt Conference championship in football. Won the Sun Belt in soccer, even had a chance to win the national championship this past season. You hired a tremendous basketball coach in Kim Caldwell, and she took your team to the Sun Belt Conference regular season title and then won the tournament, got to the NCAA tournament. Now, she only stayed for a season as she took a job at Tennessee. That was a dream job for her, so she was able to use Marshall to elevate herself into that dream job, and everyone was thankful for her. You can talk about a lot of the positives. Facilities. Let's talk about the facilities. Have you been to Marshall in a while? If you haven't, there have been improvements in facilities. There's still a long way to go, but the new scoreboard, that was a hot topic for a while as Marshall tore down the old end zone scoreboard and put up a new one, bigger one. It was presented at the time as going to be one of the largest scoreboards in the country. And it's moderate size, it's nice size, but it was an upgrade to the scoreboard. There's work that's going to be done to enhance NIL opportunities with improvements to the shoey. There's going to be premium spaces sold there. There was always this search for ways to create new revenue opportunities. So some modifications to the football stadium. You lost some seating in the football stadium, and that was something that came up a lot with fans over the years. You tarped some of the seats off. Now, the plan will be eventually to remove those seats and put something up in the end zone. So those seats are eventually going to come down if that's going to be the plan moving forward. And then in the Henderson Center, of course, you had a situation in which seats were taken away. The tarps went up there. But you're also looking to improve the space there. There's going to be new premium seating that's going to be above the court. There's also opportunities for fans to get premium seating a little bit more towards the floor on the baseline. So he was looking for ways to create revenue opportunities for Marshall University. And you can go on and on. There were some positives that came from Christian's involvement with the university. For me, the biggest one's going to be the ballpark, the baseball park, because that happened under his watch, and Marshall had not been able to get that built for as long as I can remember. That predates my birth, trying to get that baseball park built. And so now you have that. And I mentioned facilities because there was a general freshening up of facilities. You saw it in the way that the facilities were approached. You tried to do your very best. The Henderson Center doesn't look as bad inside. And again, there's still more to do. There's always going to be more to do. And you're looking also for some unique opportunities. You've got the Herd branded beer now. So there are things that Marshall University was able to do with Christian Spears. And so there are a lot of positives. But then we got to talk about some of the negatives. And for a lot of people, that goes back to Coach Huff. There are some that are happy he's gone. And then there are some that wish he was still here. And the same thing with Coach Gibson. There are some that are wait and see, that you've told me this. This is, from what you've said to me, it's wait and see. And for others, you like Coach Gibson. So there's always going to be pluses and minuses, no matter what the situation is. But you made some good hires. You also saw a lot of people leave Marshall University, either by leaving the university voluntarily or losing their position. You saw a transition from a group of people that had institutional knowledge to a lot of fresh new faces. And change sometimes is bad, sometimes it's good, but change is constant. And so we saw a lot of people come and go in this administration. And that rubbed some people wrong. I said this earlier with Dave, and I mean it. It's not a dig at Christian. He might take it as such, and I'm sorry for that, but I think this is the truth. As one of the forward faces of the athletic department, outside of coaches, he's the perfect scapegoat because he's the athletic director. The buck stops with him, right, as the athletic department. So you have a problem with what goes on with Marshall University's athletic department, the buck stops with the athletic director. Right or wrong, that's usually where you start pointing your fingers. And so the guy gets blamed for everything. Might not even be his fault, but he's going to get the blame for it. And when things go well, he's going to get credit for that as well. So that's the job of the athletic director. You're the guy that you're in charge. You're leading the direction of the university's athletic department. And so you look at what he was able to bring to the table. He was able to make a lot of positive changes for Marshall University, but there's also some things that maybe didn't sit well with people. And we can talk about the debacle, at least according to the Parthenon, of how the presentation was handled with the Student Government Association and trying to impose fees on the students. It was $6 a credit hour, and that didn't sit well. And it wasn't just the cost of that, just the whole presentation. So we'll talk about that as well. And of course, we'll get your text. I really want to see where you're at with this right now. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. What do you think happened? Why today? What was it that ultimately ended the relationship, or will end this relationship when the contract runs out or the new hire is announced, between Marshall University and Christian Spears? What did he do well that you were happy about? Or what did he do wrong that you're not happy about? And we got to start talking about a potential replacement. As athletic directors, it's going to be harder and harder to, of course, find good candidates. Can Marshall bring in a candidate that everyone will be happy with and that can move the athletic department forward? We'll get your thoughts on that. There's been a name that's come up, and it's not a name unknown to Herd fans. We'll talk about that as well. But we got to get our first break in. So the text line is open. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is your opportunity to be a part of the program here today on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Now is the time to add on a new bathroom or remodel your old one with the latest up-to-date bathroom fixtures from Mutual Wholesalers, 710 5th Street, Huntington. Come in today to Mutual Wholesalers' beautiful showroom and see how your new bathroom will look. Check out Acre by Max. Have a new bathroom this year. Mutual Wholesalers, locally owned and operated, 710 5th Street, Huntington. Call 304-525-9118.
Stalwart Insurance is the name for insurance in the tri-state. They are committed to delivering tailored benefit solutions with thoughtful, strategic planning with valuable professional services. Stop by or call Stalwart Insurance for your homeowner's insurance needs. Stalwart Insurance is located right beside Kenny Queen Hardware on Route 10 in Barbersville. Call Stalwart Insurance anytime at 304-552-3883. That's 304-552-3883. Or visit them online at stalwartinsurance.com.
Hey Tri-State, Frank's Place is where friends hang out with friends. Stop on by for happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. and a lot of daily specials. It's that time of year for March basketball. Frank's has you covered from the Sun Belt to the SEC, NBA to the MLB. First responders, stop by Frank's Place and check out the specials they have for you. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
Hi, I'm Nori, and over the years, my mother and I have opened our homes to those who need it most, and it's been so rewarding. I bet you didn't know that some adults who have unfortunately been mistreated need a place to call home in West Virginia. It happens more than you know. They may have some physical or mental limitations, and they need your help. Everyone deserves a place to call their own. I can tell you from my experience, it's worth it.
If you have an open heart and want to open your home, Adult Family Care may be the right fit for you. Call the Department of Human Services and ask to speak to an Adult Family Care Home Finder at 304-269-6820. Sponsored by the West Virginia Department of Human Services, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station. This project is supported by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, of the United States, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of a financial assistance award totaling $1,227,345, with 100% funded by ACL HHS. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by ACL HHS or the U.S. government.
Kindred Communications proudly presents the Marshall Sports Medicine Institute Thundering Herd Baseball Showcase. Built by Liuna, your workforce solution. WBLDC.org. And fueled by GoMart. Go for good times. Go for GoMart. The action starts with the Food Fair pregame show and goes through the final pitch. Listen live on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930, WRBC.com, and the ESPN 94.1 app. The next game is Saturday, May 17th at 3 p.m. against Georgia Southern. Marshall Baseball from Kindred Communications.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
We continue on with this Tuesday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So the news is official today. A release earlier this afternoon from Marshall University indicating that a mutual agreement has occurred and the university and athletic director Christian Spears will agree to part ways at the conclusion of his contract or when the new athletic director is hired, whichever comes first. So he's on the outs now, and Marshall's looking for an athletic director. I did ask for comment earlier this afternoon if we could get either Brad Smith or someone else from the athletic department on the program to maybe talk about this further. The indication I got is that the university is not going to have any further comment about it at this time, and I was told that what's happening is that they're currently focusing on preparing for the national search. So I got the reply, the standard reply, basically, thanks for reaching out, but no comment. We're focused on the national search. So hopefully we can find out more information as this search begins. So the one name that keeps coming up, and it's very early in this process now, so there's going to be more names that possibly pop up. And you might have an idea of the person that would be perfect for this job, maybe can make a move up. But the name that keeps coming up, and it's more of a wish list type hope that, if I could hire somebody, he's on my list, it's Jeff O'Malley. He used to be he was the interim athletic director. He basically helped get Marshall in the Sun Belt. He's somebody that deserves a lot of credit for getting a lot of things done in a transition period. You lost your president, you lost your athletic director, and so your athletic director contract's not renewed. And then your president decides to not renew his contract. So you're searching for a football coach. You get the football coach with the athletic director then excused. And then you're searching for a president. And then you bring a new president in. And then not that far afterwards, you have a new athletic director. So there was a lot of transition. So we're now in that situation again where football coach was hired. Athletic director contract's going to run out. Not going to be part of the program in maybe less than a year. And you got to go find a new athletic director now. The good news is I don't think the president's going anywhere, so that's the good news. But there's going to be a lot of transition. Obviously, this comes at maybe the best time because you can start focusing on it now instead of searching at the last minute. So that's the good news here. The bad news is you got to go through this process all over again. And the guy's name that keeps coming up is Jeff O'Malley, who's now the athletic director at Lamar. Done some fantastic things at Lamar. The program is growing. He's having success. He knows what he's doing. He's proven himself. Would he be available? Could Jeff O'Malley come back as the athletic director? Or is there another name that we're overlooking? On X, someone said to me, how about Deb Boughton? I believe she would be an extremely effective athletic director. She knows the ins and outs of the community. She also knows a lot about effective planning that needs to happen in college athletics these days. I appreciate that. So you could put her on the list as a potential candidate. Or is there somebody that's out there that you would like to see the Thundering Herd go after? From our text line, Paul, personally, I believe it has been time to turn the leaf for reasons that can't be talked about on air. Regardless of people's opinion, this is the most important hire in possibly the department's history because of the landscape of specifically the G5, G6 athletics, and also the pending court ruling regarding NIL and the transfer portal. That being said, having Brad Smith lead this process is certainly a sign of relief. Our job as fans is always to just show up and to invest in our department and go Herd. So appreciate the text, a positive outlook there. This is going to be one of the most important hires. This is an important period in college athletics. You're going to have difficulty in the future once television contracts are up. You're going to have difficulty in trying to identify revenue. You're spending more now on your players, your student athletes. They're getting more money now. They're getting money now. And so you're basically, without hiring these kids as employees, you basically have a payroll now. You are going to have to supplement what you do with money that will go towards name, image, and likeness, and you're going to be paying players, and you're going to have a shift in how many scholarships are available. There'll be more scholarships available. You're going to have less roster spots. There's going to be some give or take, and that's up to. You can have up to this many amount of roster spots. You can give up to this amount of scholarships, and the schools and the programs that have more resources are going to win out. Alabama's going to be fine. Ohio State's going to be fine. Georgia's going to be fine. There's going to be a struggle. There's going to be I don't want to say you're going to have haves and have-nots in the power conferences, but there's going to be that dividing line between the power programs and the programs that are Power 5 in name or Power 4 now in name, but they're going to be on the line. And this is going to be important how you navigate this and how the athletic department manages the finances. But that's going to be the most important thing right now, not necessarily wins and losses. How do you pay for all this? Where's the financing coming from? Because everyone can pay players now. What is going to be the dividing line between how successful you do that, where you do get the revenue from? And that goes into something that really rubbed a lot of people wrong, and that's when Christian Spears spoke to the Student Government Board, the SGA. He proposed a $6 credit per hour raise in student fees. So if you have 3 credit hours, that's what, $18? $18 in your fees. And then you've had multiple credit hours. You get into a large amount of numbers. That's a lot of money coming out. And for a student, that's a lot of money. And so you had the entire situation where he went to the Student Government Board and said, look, hey, I got this idea. And if you believe the reports that came out from the Parthenon when this thing happened, Christian came off as looking bad. He was unprepared. He even admitted that he didn't do a very good job explaining what they were trying to do. And he basically admitted, hey, look, this was a poor explanation. He was trying to stress revenue sharing intent. He was positive about the experience, but unfortunately, this was a bad look because you're trying to raise fees on students. And at this moment in time, where everything's going up, and you come off as not being prepared in that situation. Now, I don't know what the proper procedure should be, but I think that if you're going to increase fees, you better have a well laid out plan. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. This is why we want to do it. This needs to be a well laid out plan, and it probably needs to come from Board of Governors. It feels like you're going to the students saying, hey, what do you think of this idea? And instead of having a well laid out, well thought out presentation, the report indicated basically you got 12 hours notice. Hey, we're gonna meet tomorrow, and I want to make this presentation. And you didn't have all your cue cards ready. You didn't have your slides and your presentation really well thought out, or at least according to the reports. And so that was a bad look as well. That's not ultimately the reason why the university and Mr. Spears are going to be parting ways. I'm sure that didn't help and that didn't look good. But you're going to need to figure out where the revenue is coming from. How do you generate the revenue? And that's why the next hire is going to have to be able to manage that. Texter says, Paul, I think that the fee on the credit hours was a good idea. Like you say, we have to find a way to make money being a smaller school, and this is a way. I'm fine with him leaving. He was fine, but several things could have been better also. He didn't come on your show like Mike did. I would have loved to ask him questions like you could Mike on your show. Well, that was a different situation. Mike Hamrick would come on from time to time. And, of course, we had an actual show with Mr. Hamrick. There was an athletic show where Mike would take questions for an hour, and you could actually talk to him. You could call in. You could text in. And I would have loved to have had those opportunities a lot more transparency, have some clarity on some things, get your ideas out there, make any corrections that need to be made, hit home some points that maybe need to be hit home, speak to everyone you possibly can. Yeah, sure, those opportunities would have been fantastic to have more of those. And I liked Mike Hamrick. That might not have been a popular statement a few years ago, but I like Mike Hamrick. When I saw him last, he looked good, and it was great to see him, and we had a nice talk. But if you're the athletic director, you're going to have to be the people person. That's going to be big because you're going to have to make friends and build relationships. And if you bring someone new in, like you did with Christian Spears, and I'm not against bringing someone new in, like a Christian Spears, you're going to have to hit the ground running and start making friends and building relationships. At the same time, if you look at someone like Jeff O'Malley, you bring him in. He knows the lay of the land. He's got relationships. Everyone seems to like him. Is he your target for athletic director? More texts coming up, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll get your thoughts on the whole situation. Do you think that fee was a good idea? You think the way he went about it was the wrong way to do it? Who do you like for a potential athletic director as well? Do you have a short list? Or is it already decided, hey, bring back Jeff O'Malley if he'll take the job? We'll get those thoughts and more when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Truck accident? Tom Boggs is here for you in Huntington, and he's brought the expertise of Warner Law Offices with him.
Call 345-6789.
Stuck in a state of falling behind, struggling to keep up with kids, finances, insurance, and life? Well, let your State Farm agent help you simplify and get to a better state. With State Farm handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time to handle everything else. More money, too. Adding State Farm policies can earn discounts that could add up to 40% to help you get ahead. Call an agent today and get to a better state with State Farm. In Huntington, Jeff Smith, 304-781-1234. And in Wayne, Vicky Tabor, 304-272-5149.
Metro Community Federal Credit Union now brings you all the tech that big banks have, but still has that personal touch of a member-owned community credit union. Apple Pay? Got it. Digital wallet? Yep. Message pay by text, online loan payments, even chatting with a real person, not a bot. Open accounts, sign documents, and manage your money all online. It's the big bank tech you need from the local community-minded credit union you trust. Metro Community FCU. Visit metrocommunityfcu.com today.
Save big on your next project right now at Menards. From mold and mildew stains and hard-to-stick surfaces, preparing your paint project has never been easier than with Bullseye 123. Zinsser Bullseye 123 Primer is an all-purpose, high-performance, water-based primer for interior and exterior residential, commercial, and industrial applications. Save big on Bullseye 123 Primer. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Also, I'm on X at Paul Swann. We're taking your comments there as well. From X, poster said, Paul, I mean, there has been any bigger debacle in the Marshall Athletic Department than the Coach Huff mess? I can kind of understand why this relationship fell apart. Also, from social media, regarding Jeff O'Malley, poster says, I hope that they at least approach him about interest in returning. I feel like it was close last time, but they chose Spears. Honestly, they need some continuity back there, especially at AD. He would make an excellent choice with the institutional knowledge he already has. Your thoughts as well, you can find me on X at Paul Swann. Also, the text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. If you just joined us, it was officially announced today that Marshall University and Christian Spears have mutually agreed not to extend Spears' contract after it runs out. And on the surface, you look at, for the most part, what he was able to do, what he was able to accomplish at Marshall University. I think it's a good grade. If you're grading on results alone, you're not talking about anything else other than what you can see on the paper. Here's what the test paper looks like. You get it back, you start grading in here. Okay, baseball facility, check. There's a football title. Okay, haven't had one of those in a while. Got one of those, and again, give credit as well to Charles Huff. Men's soccer, okay, you've got conference titles there, great. Women's basketball, you had titles there. Okay, check, great. Competed for a national championship in soccer. Okay, that's really good as well. Baseball, didn't think it'd ever be built. Well, new baseball stadium, new baseball field, Jack Cook Field. Check. Okay, what else? Bowl eligibility, you could throw that in there, even though Marshall had to bow out of the bowl. Okay, and that's a negative right there because the embarrassment and the costing of a lot of revenue as well to Marshall University of having to bow out of the bowl. Now, of course, that was a complete cascade of failure. You have this, I don't want to say public negotiation going on, but Coach Huff had made comment a couple of times about wanting to stay and what the process was like. And then we find out that Coach Huff has taken the job at Southern Miss, and that was after the Sun Belt Conference Championship, and then it just fell apart there. You had the transfer portal open up, and Marshall players left in droves, a lot of them going to Southern Miss to be a part of Coach Huff's team. And you have a complete failure to maintain your football team to the point where you can't participate in a bowl game that you accepted the bid for. And then when that news breaks, it makes national news. Obviously, it's pretty embarrassing. And it was a bad look and a black eye for Marshall. Now, what do you do in that situation? Do you play the game or do you not play the game? Marshall Athletic Department, university decided not to play the game. And so that was, from a lot of fans' minds, yeah, hey, that's bad look. We promised to be there. At least if we would have played the game, it might have been a bad outcome for the scoreboard, but we would have been there, and that could have been something you talk about this transfer portal. There were a lot of reasons to and for going. There were a lot of reasons against it as well. Back to our text line. Texter says, does he really stay through March 2026? I feel like a lame duck athletic director for a year can set you back years. Get the new one quick. I appreciate the text. I think you're going to have to. You're going to have to bring in someone sooner than later. I don't want it to be a rush job, though. You go out and you make a proper, thorough search. You find someone that is qualified. What are the qualifications for the new athletic director in your mind? That's probably a good question to ask. Financial background, experience. Do you want someone from a bigger school, someone from a smaller school? Do you want someone who has experience, with large sums of money? You want someone who comes from an institution you didn't have large sums of money. What do you want as far as your qualifications are concerned? What does this athletic director have to be to you to make it work? How many qualifications in your plus column does he have to have or she have to have before it's a good fit for you? What are those? Basically, what are you looking for? What is the qualification in your mind to be the athletic director, the next athletic director at Marshall University? I think you're going to have somebody who can make deals. Financially, you have to have somebody that has a keen business mind, because that person has got to go out and make sure to put Marshall in the best situation possible in making deals, running the business, because college athletics is a business, and you're going to have to be able to run it effectively, and you're going to have to run it efficiently. You're going to have to find new revenue streams. You're going to have to manage what you have. You're going to have to make do sometimes with what you have. and you're going to have to do things that will propel the department forward. You're going to have to do a lot. You know, the saying, less is more. Sometimes less is not more. Less is less. And you're going to have to be able to make do with what you have when you come to Marshall University. You aren't going to have piles of cash. You're not going to be able to sit on top of those. And you're going to have to find ways to compensate student athletes now. And that's going to be difficult for any athletic director to come in. And you're going to also have to win. You have to bring in the right people to win. You're going to have to give your football program everything it needs to compete and win in the Sun Belt. You're going to have to be able to do the same for all the other sports. And if you can't manage both, you're going to be in trouble right away because, sure, you can have a great business IQ, but if you're not good with hiring and bringing in the right people, you're only giving 50% of what you need to get done to the university. You're going to have to be able to do both. At least that's kind of an idea from my head. I need someone who can work people, have all the right contacts, be able to roll with the punches, be able to assess the landscape, adapt when needed, and you're going to have to be able, and you're not going to do it all the time, but you're going to have to be able to keep as many Marshall fans and alum happy as possible because that's one source of revenue. The fans, the alumni, that's where you're going to be asking for a lot of money. Hey, we need you to give more. We need you to give more. And so if you have an athletic director that's able to find those revenue sources, it's able to navigate the new landscape, that's able to make the right deals, that's able to manage the athletic department, manage the coaches, manage the assistant coaches, all the business deals, all the finances, everything. You're going to have someone who's able to navigate this entire landscape, be a great multitasker, be a great people person, keep everyone as happy as you possibly can. And, of course, you've got like 2 weeks to find that person, right? 6 months maybe at max. Quick timeout, more of your texts coming up. And again, 304-396-TALK, brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
It's the Grand Slam sales event at Ironton Automotive, and you're up to bat. Drive one out of here with unbeatable deals on winning lineups of cars, trucks, and SUVs. Slide into a new ride today with easy financing, top dollar trade-ins, and home run savings that'll have you rounding the bases in style. Don't wait, these offers won't last forever. Visit 2125 South 3rd Street in Ironton, Ohio, or online anytime at irontonautomotive.com and score big before this event heads for the fences.
Stalwart Insurance is the name for insurance in the tri-state. They are committed to delivering tailored benefit solutions with thoughtful, strategic planning with valuable professional services. Stop by or call Stalwart Insurance for your homeowner's insurance needs. Stalwart Insurance is located right beside Kenny Queen Hardware on Route 10 in Barbersville. Call Stalwart Insurance anytime at 304-552-3883. That's 304-552-3883. Or visit them online at stalwartinsurance.com.
Hey Tri-State, Frank's Place is where friends hang out with friends. Stop on by for happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. and a lot of daily specials. It's that time of year for March basketball. Frank's has you covered from the Sun Belt to the SEC, NBA to the MLB. First responders, stop by Frank's Place and check out the specials they have for you. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
At Poca Valley Bank, a handshake can still mean the start of a great relationship. We've been greeting customers with a handshake since 1908. Why settle for less? If you're purchasing your first home or planning for your future, Poca Valley Bank is here to support you with personalized service and local expertise. They are your trusted advisors. Why settle for less when you can experience banking with a team that truly cares? Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Visit PocaValleyBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
I'm Nori, and when I was young, my mom opened our home to someone who needed a secure and safe place. She taught him what it was like to have someone care about you, having dinner at home or going out to eat together.
In West Virginia, families open their homes every year to adult family care.
Some folks need a little extra help, but everybody deserves a family.
Call the Department of Human Services and ask to speak to an adult family care home finder at 304-269-6820. Sponsored by the West Virginia Department of Human Services, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station. This project is supported by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, of the United States, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of a financial assistance award totaling $1,227,345, with 100% funded by ACL HHS. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of nor an endorsement by ACL HHS or the U.S. government.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thank you, Dave. It was great to be on your show today. And if you missed it, you can go back to the podcast page over at wvmetronews.com. Had a chance to talk to Dave and TJ earlier this morning on Talk Line. Dave and TJ back with you tomorrow, 10:06 a.m. right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Baseball action coming up tomorrow. Marshall taking on West Virginia, 6 o'clock at GoMart Ballpark in Charleston. Thundering Herd swept South Alabama at the Jack. West Virginia swept Houston last weekend. Marshall, of course, lost the previous two matchups this season to the Mountaineers. So can the Thundering Herd get the next one? At least get one of the three matches this year? That's going to be, I think, important. I mean, can Marshall steal one late in the season, kind of disrupt WVU's rhythm just a little bit? That'd be a great way to end the series this year, at least with the Mountaineers. And that's something that I think, as well as you get a new athletic director in here, what can you do scheduling-wise? That's probably something that's been asked of me a couple of times. Hey, what can Marshall do to improve its schedule? Because you got to remember, Marshall's schedule, if you look at it, we were promised destinations, right? Destinations when Christian Spears came in here and said, look, I want to schedule, I want to have destinations for Marshall fans. And so you look at the schedule, and you're at Georgia, Middle Tennessee, Murfreesboro, not a destination. And then you go in 2026, you're going to be at Penn State. Great game, be a fun trip, but I don't know if that's a destination game. And then you're at Missouri State, you bring Missouri State in. I mean, that'll be interesting because Missouri State it's a new opponent. That's going to be interesting enough. So that's worth something. But you're at Eastern Michigan in 2028 and at Wisconsin. Again, I don't know if Wisconsin it's a great place to go watch a football game, I'm sure, but is it a destination? And then 2027, a must-have, you got to be at Ohio. What's the future football schedule going to look like? Now for basketball, destinations maybe make a little bit more sense. You can do things like that. And, of course, with basketball, scheduling was an issue over the last few years. Football, you never know what you're going to get. You're at Georgia, that's a money game. You're at Penn State, that's a money game. You're at Wisconsin, that's a money game. Those are money games. Missouri State, Eastern Kentucky, you needed an opponent, and you got a home game. That's what the fans want, so you're balancing out your schedule there. At Middle Tennessee, I wasn't high on that when it was announced, and I'm still not high on that now. At Middle Tennessee, that was fun. That was fine in conference, but if you're going to bring a school back on your schedule, again, Western Kentucky was sitting right there. I would want the relationship in football with Western Kentucky more than I would with Middle Tennessee. And I would want to work on the schedule in the future, because if Marshall gets clobbered at Georgia and wins the rest of the games, that's still going to be you're clobbered at Georgia, and you might be on the outside looking in when it comes to one of those playoff spots. I think you have to have a schedule that's attractive but manageable as well, because it's going to be so difficult to get one of those playoff spots. You want to have the best record possible. I'm not saying load up on cupcakes, but what I am saying is let's have a manageable schedule here and try to shoot for the playoff, because how long will the bowls last? That's probably the next big domino to fall. How long will the bowls last? It makes the playoff more important. And that also means that if you don't make the playoff, there might not be that many bowl opportunities out there. So you want to put yourself in a situation where you can get into the playoff. That's now the goal because the playoff means more. I don't know if that thing will ever expand. It might. But it also could be the beginning where we see the return of, and it'll be named different, but you could have a return to these are the power schools that play in this division, and then you have the return of a lower division in Division I. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for everyone that texted in today. Appreciate everyone. I'll be back with you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Until then, have a great night.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.